What is going on, guys? Welcome once again. I'm calling these versions of videos I'm making with Alex Gontas as breeding techniques. Today, we have a really good one for you. We're going to be talking about prepotency. And all prepotency is, and you guys are going to see, we're going to simplify things for you, is the ability of an animal to be able to push forward its traits in a breeding, right? Just keeping it basic. Let me bring on Mr. Alex VonGontaus from VonGontaus German Shepherds. Alex, how you doing this morning?
I'm fine. Thank you,
Oh,
Raul.
good deal, man.
I
Listen,
enjoyed myself here last time. I wanted to thank your audience for treating me so warmly and so nicely. And I know a lot of people have a lot of other things they can do on a Sunday than listen to a dog channel. But it heartens my heart to know that people are so interested in this topic and are willing to listen. And I really appreciate it.
oh, no, absolutely. They're definitely tuning in, man, because the information we're providing is really in depth. And those that are taking breeding seriously and really want to know the nuts and bolts of breeding, you got to have a basic concept. We were just talking about it, basic biology and how stuff really works. So I really appreciate you coming in and taking your time on your Sunday to
Thank
educate
you.
the people in my platform. Real
Thank
quick,
you.
Alex, let me go through some comments from the people that are here. We got Richard Dowling saying, please, everyone, hit the like button respectfully on your way in. It's free and very much appreciated. Thank you so much, man. Emilio Garcia, like always, supporting us. Good morning, Bully community. Let's get it. We got Adam Fields. Good morning, Bully fam. Ronnie F. How's everyone's Sunday going? Can't wait for this one. Notebook ready. There you go. And you definitely want to get a notebook or a piece of paper or something because we're going to be going through some stuff today. Pindejos Schwango says, good morning from 719. Infamous Hafa Adai tapping in. Shaka brother, we got Insarata. Good morning. Emmanuel Woods, good day, Bully fam. Infamous Hafa Adai. Good Brothers Kennels. We got Pendejos once again. Hafa Adai, Ghost Kennels. Salute Raul, Alex in the chat. And Shamar finally early. So listen, guys. Good morning, Bully fam from Maurice Humboldt. Listen, today, Alex, if I understand it correctly, you told me that you have some slides that you wanted to go over and you wanted to break down prepotency. Uh, I'm ready when you are, man, and for us to
Thank you.
have an exceptional discussion this morning.
Thank you, Raul. So, in the conversation we had last time, the focus of the conversation was back massing versus back breeding. In that first conversation, we talked about increasing a desired sire by repeating him several times in the pedigree, how we're able to increase his influence, and the need to increase the influence of a desirable sire. Notice I said desirable sire, not just
Yes,
any sire. Very critical. It must be an apex individual. It must be a high quality dog with very few flaws, if any, and it must be a dog you really want to replicate. So a desirable sire, not just any sire, is a key
correct.
word here. Now, so we talked about how to increase the influence of a dog which is either in a different country, in my case in Germany, so you can't breed to him directly, he's across the ocean, or how you can breed from frozen semen if the dog is dead. You're bringing back dead a dead dog from frozen semen by breeding old genetics back. So
Okay.
this is the purpose of the previous video. Now the question is, well, how does that work? What are you doing all this for? And the answer is it comes down to a concept called prepotency. Let me explain, and I'm going to go into a slideshow explaining it further. When you mate two animals together, male and female, in theory, each parent contributes 50-50 of the genes, in theory.
In theory,
In
yes.
reality, if one parent has inbreeding in them or line breeding in them, they have a greater number of homogeneous gene pairs, which means the same genes from both sides.
Correct.
And as a result of being homogeneous, they will force their characteristics over their partner. Now, normally, it doesn't have to be the case, but normally the male is prepotent and brings forth to the table prepotency, and the female brings forth mitochondrial DNA and resistance to disease. That's what each contribute to the equation, male and female. In order to have a breeding program, a female can only contribute so much to the breeding program because she can only have maybe 5 or 6 litters in her lifetime. A male can have 5 or 6 breedings in a single month. So,
And more.
right. So, in terms of influencing future generations of dogs, the male is what carries forth the breeding program, but the female brings forth the best characteristics of that male to the breeding program. So each have something to contribute. So I'm going to share my screen.
Excellent.
Am I presenting that screen correctly or not?
It is. It is up and it is
It is
presented.
up. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the question is the importance of prepotent dogs. Let me make sure I can go to the next slide because I'm not sure if it's working right or not. Just 1 second, please. Can you guys see my slides or no?
I'm seeing
I'm gonna
right
go to
now.
the next slide.
Yes, I just saw you move the cursor, so I'm seeing everything
Okay.
right now.
Okay. So the agenda is, why does prepotency matter? Can you improve a breed via prepotency? Can you create unique lines within the breed via prepotency? Different breeding strategies, and finally Brackett's formula. Let's go into each of these topics one by one. The power of prepotency.
Okay.
The power of prepotency comes from the fact that every breeder that I know of knows and understands the importance of a great sire. This is particularly true for those dogs that to a large extent stamp their likeness upon their offspring, while a bitch having qualities also prized. Such a sire can easily have far more reaching impact on his line and in the breed in general. That is because he can produce considerably larger numbers of progeny. When a sire throws himself to a marked degree and passes his best traits and characteristics to an unusually large number of his puppies that resemble more closely than normal, he is said to be prepotent. So let's show an example of prepotency in real life, because
Yes.
I'm gonna bring up another slide because just give me 1 quick second, guys. I apologize because I didn't prepare this one in a row. I'm gonna bring up a dog. Now, prepotency can happen in nature automatically. It doesn't always come from inbreeding. In other words, occasionally prepotency happens by itself without inbreeding taking place. Sometimes a dog is so powerful that he can pass himself without you doing any line breeding or inbreeding. That's the exception, not the rule. I'm gonna stop sharing and reshare this screen 1 second.
Okay.
Bear with me. I'm gonna reshare this screen because I want to bring up a specific dog to show.
Meanwhile, I'm going to bring up a comment.
Animal that
Go ahead. I'm going to bring up a comment here real quick from Good Brothers Kennel. He's saying, I'm new to the bully, and let me tell you, this channel has helped me out a lot. I'm sure I'm not just speaking for myself when I say, Raul, we appreciate you and all the education you're giving out. Thank you so much. And definitely, I'm also thanking this gentleman next to me, Mr. Alex Gontas, for taking the time and helping us today. Let me bring up your slide, Alex. There it is.
very much. Can everybody see this dog, Vukan Van Perot, or not yet?
Yes.
I'm not sure because
Yes.
I can't see it. All right. Who is this dog? This dog was the 2016 world champion from the Perot Kennel in Germany. The Perot Kennel is famous. Peter Rode. This is a play on his name, Peter Rode. You know, that's why Perot.
Okay.
He was the owner of this whole. He produced a lot of champions. So this was his champion. This dog is dead now. This dog was the 2016 world champion. I want you to pay attention, and I'm not going to go through the whole pedigree, but I want you to pay attention to 2 particular dogs. Notice his mom was Mona van Perot, and his dad was Lennox van Fernhill. This is translated from German to English automatically. I'm going to click on this dog, Lennox. Come on. Why doesn't it come up? Very slow to come up. Can you still guys see? Can you guys still see Linux, or I have to?
Yes,
You
I'm
can.
seeing it
Okay.
right now.
Now I want you to look at Linux. Linux is the papa of Vukan van Perot. You see this dog? Notice how his son Vukan looks like his father, Linux. You see that?
I don't see Vukan. I
The
see
one
only
I just
Len.
had before.
Okay, yes, okay, my bad.
So notice how Linux, the father of Vukan, notice how the son looks like the father. You see that,
Correct.
Linux? Now I'm going to bring up another dog. This is a dog in my own kennel. And I'm going to just Google his name because it's easy to find him. Okay, this dog is now 8. He's the grandson of Linux, or the son of Vukan. Can everybody see this dog or not yet? Dex van Lupus Alpha?
No, right now it's
I'm
on
going to
the
stop sharing and reshare it. I'm going to stop sharing and reshare it.
yeah.
Sorry, I thought it was automatic, but it's not. I thought if I switch screens, it does it, but I didn't realize it didn't. So let me just restart sharing, and I'll do that again. 1 second. I'm getting familiar with this stuff. 1 second, guys. Apologies.
No worries. No worries. We got
No.
Brayman Bully saying, glad to have Alex back.
Oh, thank you,
Excellent,
thank you.
man. Danny
Notice how,
Guzman. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, notice how Vukan is the son of Linux. You see that? I'm not focusing on the mom. I'm deliberately focusing on the dad. Notice
Yes.
how Vukan looks just like Linux, right? But if you
Okay.
look at his son, Dex is the son of Vukan and the grandson of Linux. He looks just like Linux. Look at
Okay.
his color. Look at his head shape. I'm going to bring up my page on my website. I'm going to stop and reshare because that seems to be working best. Bear with me because it doesn't seem to auto reshare. So 1 second.
Well, right now it's following you just fine on the screen.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Right
So
now it
not
is.
yeah. So Dex was imported from Germany. He is this. This is his registration in Germany. His father Vukan. Now, notice Dex. I made a little.
Okay. You made a little clip.
And I sold him. Notice how he looks like Linux.
Okay.
You see that? So I titled this dog, and then I sold him to this man here, Kevin. I'm gonna play this video. Now, you see how he looks like Linux?
Yes.
Now, I'm gonna play Linux, and I'm gonna show you how much the grandson looks like the grandfather. You're gonna be amazed because they look like a spitting image of each other. Because there's just no denying it. In other words, the ability for the dog to look like his ancestor, that's what prepotency means. The dog throws himself into his
right now I'm seeing your YouTube screen.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna just bring up the dog and I'm gonna share it. Okay.
Okay. We got Kahiki.
I want to just find the exact spelling of Linux because it's in German.
Sure.
That's why I want to type the German spelling, otherwise I won't find him.
We got Kahiki Sakata tuning in all the way from Hawaii saying, good morning, fam. Appreciate you. I know he's about 5 or 6 hours behind. So it's either 5 or 4 in the morning. He's tuning in. So I really appreciate him. Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is simply respect. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now, so I'm gonna bring it up and see if that comes up or not. I don't know if it does or not. Hold on. Crap. 1 second, guys. It's not quick because should have prepared the name. Should have prepared the video.
But what Alex is doing is obviously showing you guys how a prepotent grandfather was able to, or great grandfather was able to pass the genes to a grandfather who then, I'm sorry, I take it back. A grandfather passed the genes to a father who passed the genes to his son. This is what he's trying to show you guys.
Yeah. How do I stop it from translating?
Yeah, Kahiki says he just started work at 6 a.m. right now in Hawaii. So, hey, man.
Wow.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for tuning in. Most definitely. Let me see if I can bring
I'm not
up.
able to bring it up properly because it's translating from German into English and therefore can't find it. That's the problem with German names.
That's
They're so hard to type.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fine, Alex. If you could just show
I
us,
can't find it. I can't find it at this moment.
yeah.
Look, can you guys see this picture of Linux?
Right now, we're not seeing anything.
Oh, I'm
There's
sorry.
nothing being presented
Oh,
on
I
your
see.
half.
I thought it switched screens as it went. I didn't realize it didn't.
Yes, sir.
I'm not as good as this program as I'd like to be.
If we can show them the slide, it's going to be more. There you go. There you go. I'll bring
Okay.
it up.
Can you guys see Linux?
Yes, yes, we're seeing
So
them.
Linux definitely passed himself to Vukan, who then passed himself to Dex. Now, if you look at the pedigree, there is no line breeding in the pedigree. So
Okay.
this is an example of natural prepotency, meaning that the dog passed this himself, but without inbreeding in the dog at all.
Okay.
And this is the exception to the rule. In other words, for prepotency to take place, can you guys see my screen now? Because I stopped the sharing of that.
No, there's no
No?
screen right now.
Oh, okay, hold on. Let me see. How about
So what?
now?
How does that happen naturally? Is that just a representation of ancestors
It's
that
just sometimes it
somehow?
happens because nature is very powerful.
Yeah.
And how do I see myself on the screen so I can leave the presentation and go back to just seeing myself on your right?
I am not sure of that, Alex.
Hold on, let
I
me.
don't. Yeah.
Um,
Right now, you're on the screen, and
I am
you're
on the
next.
screen.
Yeah, and you're right next to me,
Oh,
and
that's what I want. Okay,
yeah,
that's fine.
there's no slides or anything going.
Oh, okay. So I wasn't clear where I was. I got lost track. So basically, prepotency can occasionally happen automatically.
Okay.
So this was an example where it took place by nature. Nature did it.
Okay.
But 99.99% of the time, that never happens. 99% of the time, in order for an ancestor to pass himself, he has to have inbreeding or line breeding in him. I'm
Correct.
not gonna bore you guys, but as a video on my channel, I want to just describe it, where I line breed in a dog named Yukon Van Perot, not to be confused with the Vukan Van Perot. Starts with a J as opposed to a V. And in that video on my channel, I show how this powerful dog was bred to 17 different females because he was the grand champion of all of Germany, 2008, 2010, and 2012. And no matter what female he was bred to, he did not come out. He did not come out in the puppies. Now, when the female had line breeding in her, whether a 4-4 or a 3-3 or any other, there are multiple possible combinations. The most common would be 3-3, first cousins. The line breeding in the female overpowered the male. So
Sure.
when you have two dogs which have no inbreeding in them whatsoever, then the puppies come out exactly 50-50. Half the sire's characteristics, half the dams. Some come out like the mother, some come out like the father, some come out in between the two dogs, neither the father's characteristics or the mother, somewhere in between, like a blend. So when the two dogs have no inbreeding, again, none, then you come out with a random combination of father, mother, or something in between.
Sure.
However, if you have inbreeding in the female, she's prepotent over the male. When you have inbreeding in the male, he's prepotent over the female. So think of it this way. If a dog has inbreeding or line breeding in him, instead of being 50-50, think of it as 80-20.
Correct.
Prepotent animal is 80% of what the puppies look like, and the non-inbred animal is like 20% of what they look like. In other words, usually the male is where its prepotency happens. It doesn't have to be, but usually it is. So on paper, both parents are 50-50. But a prepotent animal, you will see 80-20. The
Yeah.
prepotent dog will be 80% and the non-prepotent dog will be 20%. In theory, they're both 50%. In practice, they're not. Go ahead, Raul. I'm sorry.
Alex, let me interrupt you for a moment. Can you explain the correlation between prepotency and coefficient of inbreeding?
Correct. I'm about to get to that. So
Okay.
now there's a relationship between prepotency and coefficient of inbreeding. And the higher the coefficient of inbreeding, the higher the prepotency, but the higher the risk for congenital defects. The lower the coefficient of inbreeding, the lower the prepotency, and the lower the chance of congenital defects. So it's like a scale. As inbreeding goes up, prepotency goes up, but disease goes up.
Health risks. Yes.
As health risk and the ability to resist disease goes up.
Yes.
The reason disease goes up is because you're rapidly shrinking the gene pool, and the variability in the gene pool is what allows an animal to resist disease. So
Correct.
if you have an inbred herd population and you have a disease-based gene, it'll spread like wildfire across all ancestors real quick, and it'll kill off a lot of animals real quick.
Yes.
So inbreeding has the ability to concentrate traits, but if there's a disease, it spreads like wildfire because you've gotten rid of all heterozygosity or variability, that is, and it's the heterozygosity that resists disease. And so you've gotten rid of that, therefore disease spreads very rapidly.
So
it's a compromise. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me interrupt you there. So can we conclude that heterozygosity equals variability?
Right.
And
heterozygosity creates what's called hybrid vigor.
Yes.
And it also creates what's called homeostasis. Now, what does that mean, homeostasis? Homeostasis happens at the time of conception. If you notice in human beings also, if you notice some kids, you have brother and sister or brother and brother, one child looks more like the mother and one looks more like the father. And some kids look like in between the two parents. Says, well, why does one child look like more like the dad and one child looks more like the mother?
Correct.
That's because during homeostasis, the empty DNA and the nuclear DNA don't combine equally in equal proportion. And I don't want to go into mitochondrial DNA gene recombination at this time because I want to leave that as a separate topic because that's a complicated topic and I don't want to go into that, but that is the reason.
Let me interrupt you there because we do have a question from a member.
Sure.
And I feel like he's getting nuclear DNA and mitochondrial DNA confused. But I want to ask you the question. I want you to break it down. This is coming from Brahmin Bull Bullies. At what point of prepotency in the male does it start to trump the mitochondrial DNA of the female?
It doesn't work like that. Correct. You have a misunderstanding. So mitochondrial DNA is the mother's DNA and can only come from the mother. The mother also has nuclear DNA, not just mitochondrial DNA. She also has nuclear DNA. And the male also has nuclear DNA. It's in the nuclear DNA, not the mitochondrial DNA, only the nuclear DNA, that gene recombination takes place of what's called autosomal genes.
Yes.
Let me give you an example and it'll answer your question. And again, these are not the actual numbers. This is just by way of example. A dog has 78 chromosomes. We humans have less. Of 78 chromosomes, 2 are sex-linked chromosomes, either XX from the mama or XY from the papa. So 78 minus 2 is 76, right? Now, these 76 are all nuclear DNA, all of them. None of them are mitochondrial DNA, none of them. Between siblings, 50% of the nuclear DNA are exactly the same across all siblings. So from the 76 chromosomes, 34 of 76, half, are exactly the same across brothers and sisters. So you and your brother are only 50% related, not 100% related. Otherwise, you'd be identical twins, and you're not. So between brother and brother and brother and sister, 50% of your DNA is exactly the same. Exactly the same. So 34 of 76 are exactly the same across all siblings. The other 34, that's where the magic happens. In brother 1, from the father on sibling 1, I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm just making up the number to make it a point. From the father, he got chromosome 1 through 17. And from the mother, he got chromosome 6 through 20 this time. Now, the other brother, instead of getting 6 through 17 from the father, he got 5 through 30 from the father and 13 through 20 from the mother. And then the third brother, let's say it's a 10 brothers family, right? People used to have a lot of children back in
Yes.
the day, right? The next brother got chromosome 18 through 26 from the father, and from the mother got chromosome 1 through 11. I'm not mathematically adding it up in my brain. I'm
In
just trying to
essence,
explain the idea.
in essence, what I'm getting, Alex, and what you're explaining is that the other 34 chromosomes, the combinations
Are
can differ,
random.
are random. They can differ.
Now, here's how inbreeding works.
Okay.
If the mother and the father have a common relative, let's just say a common grandparent,
Okay.
for the sake of conversation. Now, from the 34 from the mother and from the 34 of the father, 1/4 of that 34, 1/4 of that 34 will be the exact same genes from both parents. The other 3/4 will be random combination, just like they were unrelated. So in other words, if the two dogs are unrelated, completely unrelated, the 34 through 76, that's the same across all the kids. That's the same because they're sisters and brothers.
Okay.
From the remaining 34, if they're unrelated, 34 randomly recombines from each side, randomly. But if there's homogeneous genes, meaning they have a common ancestor, 1/4 of the common genes will be the same genes from both parents and will double up, become a
Correct.
homogeneous gene pair because there are 2 copies of that particular gene. So it's not a matter of the father outpowers the mother. Mitochondrial DNA is passed no matter what the father is, prepotent or not. Mitochondrial DNA is passed, period. It's
Yeah.
a period. No matter what, related, unrelated, mitochondrial DNA is always passed. Let me
Correct.
give you an example. In the Jewish religion and in the Muslim religions in Pakistan, in Egypt, in all the Middle Eastern countries,
Yeah.
first cousin marriage is allowed. In the Christian countries, first cousin marriage is forbidden. Only second and third cousin marriage is allowed. But in the Middle Eastern countries, first cousin marriage is allowed. Okay? What does that mean? It means you have 1 or 2 grandparents in common. And this has been going on for centuries. This is not recent. Now, because the people are related, have a common grandparent, at least 1, if not 2, the male's nuclear DNA will meet with the female's nuclear DNA, and those genes which are shared by the common grandparent on both sides will combine to create a homogeneous gene pair, therefore forming a nationality. That's how you have the Arab race, the Jewish race, the the uh, the Iran is what, Farsi, Persian race, right? In other words, that's how nationalities of people came about. What's a nationality? Well, what's a dog breed? German shepherds can only breed with German shepherds, right? Rottweilers can only breed with Rottweilers, right?
Right.
So only this gene pool breeds with this gene pool. Same thing with nationality. Jews only marry other Jews. Arabs marry only other Arabs. Spaniards only marry other Spaniards. So the idea of race and the idea of breed, it's the same concept. And that's how breeds or races came about, because of the common ancestor of the initial population of people or animals, which started off the race. In other words, how can I explain it? If I go back in a pedigree, right? You have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 16 great grandparents, 32 great 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 grandparents, right? It always doubles, right? But as you go to the foundation animals of a breed, it's not going to keep doubling, because then it'll be an infinite number. You're going to find the same ancestors now all over again multiple times, because that's why they're called foundation animals of the breed. Or in this case, a human population, they're the foundation members of that subgene pool of human beings. I don't know if that makes
So
sense.
basically, Alex, what people need to comprehend is that when they're looking at their dog's pedigree
Right,
exclusively, what they're
right,
looking at is the closed gene pool for that one animal.
correct. Of
Now,
that
when
of
you're
that
talking,
particular breed, right,
correct, no, yeah, when you're talking about a particular breed, then obviously the American Bully is going to have a closed gene pool for American Bullies,
right,
Rottweilers for Rottweilers, et cetera, et
right,
cetera. But then
right,
on top of that, within that breed, when you see when you see the pedigree of your dog, right? And you go to Bully PDX and you click on it and it opens up, what you're really looking at is the closed gene pool of that dog within that breed, right?
right. So a
So,
line of so the yeah.
yeah,
So what you're hitting an important point. What is a line of dogs, right? What is a line, and what is not a line? People don't understand what the word line means. A
yes,
line is a breed within a breed. Let me explain what that means. I talk to people in my German Shepherd Club all the time, and I ask them, "What line is your dog?" Now, in German Shepherds, there are a lot of lines. You have the Kirschenthal line, which was by Carl Fuller, which was a herding line. You have a line from um, Equidius, a Czech line. You have the Janopol line from the Czech Border Patrol. You have a lot of lines. Now, so people tell me, I have the Bolo Janaka line. I said, what do you mean you have the Bolo Janaka line? I have him as a grandfather. He says, you don't have a line. You have him once in the pedigree. That doesn't make a line. Having a famous ancestor once in a
right,
pedigree does not make a line. A
correct,
line is that same ancestor on the top and bottom of the pedigree repeated several times. That's a line.
correct.
You have a famous ancestor once in the pedigree? Oh, I have the Bolo Janaka line, or whatever the famous dog is in bullies, which I don't know, but let's say whatever that name is.
Yes,
I have this line. No, you don't have that line. You have one dog once
Contrib- contributing.
contributing, but he's not a
Yeah,
line.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so what I'm trying to say, and what Raul is trying to say is, a breed is already a closed gene pool. So there's 3 stages this goes through. Let me explain for clarity purposes, for everybody to understand. Go ahead,
Okay.
Raul. You wanted to say something?
I wanted to show something if
Yeah,
you would allow me.
sure, of
Um,
course.
I wanted to show a slide that I've shown here before, and I want people to be able to see the percentages of how these lines are made up. I know I've shown this before, um, and I just like to bring it up again just to refresh their minds. Okay. So what I'm about to show on the screen is going to be the percentages of the contribution to the puppy. Let me go ahead and bring that up. My apologies. I thought I had it up already. And what Alex is saying, are you guys able to see me move the cursor? I
Yes,
think,
I see it.
okay. So what Alex is saying is this is the pup. The pup is 100% of itself. And the pup is made up by 50% of its parents, right? At least in theory. We're not going to go into line breeding and inbreeding. We're just going to say in theory, keeping it basic. Therefore, he's 25% of, in theory, of each grandparent and 12.5% of its great grandparent. So if you were to say, um, my dog, let's say this dog over here was a famous dog, right? Which it is, but let's just say for all intents and purposes, he only comes up once, even though he's coming up several times here. If he's only coming up once and he's the great grandfather of your pup, his payload is only at most is only 6.25% of the total of what your pup is going to be, which means
Correct.
he has to overpower 97.75% of the other genes. Therefore, what Alex is trying to tell you is you don't have a line if you only have a dog appearing once all the way back here. Okay? But because this dog appears here, if you notice, he appears here again. Okay? Meaning this is the bottom side, meaning the female side of the pedigree. This is the top side of the pedigree. Not only that, if you notice, we have other dogs like, say, Grim. Grim is showing up here on the top side of the pedigree. He's showing up here on the top side of the pedigree. And guess what? He's showing up twice as well on the bottom side of the pedigree. Then he shows up again a generation later. So you have to take into account that this becomes cumulative. Right. So you're looking at 6.25% plus another 6.25% plus another 6.25 plus another 6.25. Leaving him here alone, he's already contributing to 25% of your puppy's genes, meaning even though he's all the way back here, is as if though he was closer a grandfather to this pup because he's contributing 25% of his genes. But because on the following generation, he's contributing an additional 12.5%, that must be added to the 25% he's already contributing, meaning that this puppy is actually getting 37.5% from Grim right off the bat.
Correct.
If Grim was only appearing once in this entire pedigree all the way back here, you can't say that there's a line. But because he's appearing 4 times as a great-great-grandfather and then once as a great-grandfather, you can make the argument that you have a line because he's contributing 37%. Alex, surmise.
It's a very good explanation. I wanted to add another layer to this explanation for the people watching. I don't know if it's true in bullies, but it's true in German Shepherds. Let me explain.
Okay.
The German Shepherd is a very large gene pool because it's a very old breed. Now, back in 1920 or 1922, I don't remember, at the end of World War I, as you remember, ended in 1918. A lot of our soldier boys came back from the front blind, and they wanted a reliable dog to lead the blind so they don't get hit by a car. They imported 100 dogs from Germany and Austria. Remember, this was an enemy country only 2 years earlier. And they paid for the food and housing of these trainers and these dogs to train them to become guide dogs for the blind. Nearly all of these dogs failed, 97% failure rate. Think about how much money is involved. They pay for the housing of these animals, veterinary care,
the trainers,
the buildings that they're housed in, and only 3 dogs could lead a blind person reliably, and 97% were given off as pets because they couldn't do it. Now, when they bred these 3 dogs to each other, it had almost 100% success rate. So it's not just the breed, it's the specific gene pool within the breed, even without line breeding or inbreeding. In other words, take the Kirschenthal line in the German Shepherd. There was a gentleman named Karl Fuller. The German Shepherd doesn't herd like the Border Collie. The Border Collie gives the eye and stares down the sheep, and the sheep thinks it's a wolf and it's afraid to be killed by the neck, and it pushes the sheep because the collie stares down the sheep. The German Shepherd doesn't herd that way. It's called the tending style. You got a German Shepherd on the right, you got a German Shepherd on the left. They walk a line like a living wall, and the herd is in between 2 dogs walking the line. And they naturally protect the sheep inside like a wall. They're like a living wall. The farmer whistles left, right, and gives the dog whistle commands to push the sheep this way or push the sheep that way, and then another dog from the back is a drover dog and pushes the herd. Well, these
Forward.
two dogs on left and right keep the herd from moving all over the place.
Wow,
That's how
that's
a
an
German
interesting.
Shepherd herds, right? They don't herd like collies. They herd like, it's called the tending style. Now, Carl Fuller created a line in Germany. He's dead now, called the
Okay.
Kirschenthal line, and it's genetically wired to herd sheep. Nobody even teaches them anything. They're born and they have a tendency to herd sheep and nip them on the leg if they get out of line. Now,
Mm,
you have a sub-gene pool within the German Shepherd, which has a proclivity to sheep. Then you have another gene pool, which were border patrol dogs in East Germany when there was a wall between Eastern Germany and West Germany, put up in 1961. And they walked the wall, and they were very suspicious dogs and very aggressive dogs. And they would stop people escaping to the West from communist East Germany into Western West Germany. The same thing happened in Czechoslovakia. Well,
yes.
it's now Czech Republic and Slovakia, but back then it was Czechoslovakia. So I still use the old name. Now, their job was not to stop the smuggling of drugs. That was supposedly their purpose. Their real reason was to stop the Czechs from escaping to the freedom of the West. Now, the Czech dog, there's a kennel called Genopo, still around, which are the old Czech Border Patrol dogs. Guess what? They're not pets. They're aggressive as hell, very
Mm,
suspicious, and they're man stoppers. They're bred to be guard dogs in a truce. They're aggressive. So now you have the same breed. You have
right.
Border Patrol dogs, you have sheep herding dogs, and you have dogs which lead the blind. Without line breeding or inbreeding, you have isolated gene pools within the same breed that if you take a dog from this gene pool, likely it'll exhibit those traits. Now, if I take a dog which is going to herd sheep, can that dog be a man stopper and work for the police? The answer is no. It doesn't have the characteristics. Or can I take a
Right.
dog bred to stop a criminal and make him
So herd. Yeah.
uh, lead a blind person? The answer is no. So
Right.
within a breed, you have breed families within the same breed. So even without line breeding or inbreeding, there's selection pressure to create different lines or strains within the breed. Now, line breeding and inbreeding furthers that quicker. And that's why you need prepotency. I want this characteristic fast. I want to create a line of dogs which will lead a blind person. Nowadays, they use Labrador retrievers, but they used to use German Shepherds for quite some time, up until the late 70s, in fact. Now, how do I get these dogs which will exhibit this trait and not fail my program? I inbreed on the dogs which already exhibit these traits, and I'm going to create dogs which are good for leading a
Prepotent.
blind person.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is line breeding is an extra. So you have 3 steps. You have the breed, which starts off with the same foundation animals at the beginning of the breed. In the German Shepherd, that was 1899. Then you have different lines or different sub-gene pools within the breed. And then you have inbreeding inside those lines. So there's 3 layers involved in selecting animals. So I just wanted the audience to understand that not only are you inbreeding animals, but you're inbreeding a specific gene subpool within the breed at large. And that's an important topic. Now, getting back to the slides, because I don't
Can
want to.
I
Yeah,
interrupt you for a moment, Alex? I want to
right.
make a point. I also want to recognize a new member.
Oh, nice.
Let me go ahead and bring this up real quick. We gave a Kong for each one of our new members. Lorenzo just became a member, so
Oh, nice.
Pues claro que sí, cabrón.
it's claro que sí, cabrón. Today we're going live on Sundays, an impromptu live. As I bring Alex, you guys know we go live every Monday. Now we're doing it at 7 p.m. CST because of the time change. So make sure to tune in there as well. Give us a share, give us a like, give us a comment. And if you have a question, go ahead and ask it. If you have that little sign that you have next to your name, like you do now, Lorenzo, it lets me know that you're a member, and therefore we're going to prioritize your question and make sure we answer it. Quick question. Insaratha is asking you, Alex. So if I have half sisters and I breed the first sister to her half sister's father, then later breed both sisters' children together, would line breeding both studs and mother? Is that safe line breeding? What do you say to that, Alex?
I would not encourage that particular strategy.
Can you explain
I'm
why?
gonna go into that in one of my slides, and I'll answer that question a little later on. I will explain why in a little later on.
Okay.
You'll see,
I like to
I'll touch that, and just give me a minute.
I like to cross-reference something real quick. I like to bring up, guys. You got to realize something. When you Alex is giving you examples of how within a line you're able to pretty much promulgate a particular trait. He explained to you how German Shepherds herd. He explained to you how other animals herd. And even within the German Shepherd breed, there are dogs that are working line for security that you can't use for herding, for example, or quite possibly can't, and vice versa. You probably can't get a dog whose genetic makeup is to herd dogs, and all of a sudden you want them guarding a wall, right? So the reason I'm bringing this up is because a lot of times when you go into either American bully groups or just groups in general, you're going to have people dropping comments saying, adopt, don't shop. Um, Let me be perfectly clear. Not all breeders are responsible. Unfortunately, we're all well aware, no matter what the breed is, there are plenty of backyard breeders. With that being said, there's also an argument to be said that breeders are the ones that are breeders that are well informed and know what they're doing. They're the ones that actually take forward whichever breed they're working with, especially when you're talking about working lines, right? There is a place for responsible breeders in the world, and I'm hoping that you guys are joining this platform so you can learn something. So you just don't put two dogs together and make a buck, that you're actually trying to make an improvement to whether, if it's the American Bully, which is a companion breed, you're trying to make the best companion bred American Bully. And it's not only based on structure, folks. You cannot only breed based on structure. The reason I say this is because if you have a vision, whether it's for a working line or a companion breed such as us, temperament should be one of the first things that you consider. And if, you're just breeding out here exclusively based on structure or big name, chasing big names, you're really doing a disservice, not just to yourself, but mostly to the breed that you're trying to represent. In essence, if you're just putting them together to make a buck, in my definition of things, you're just a backyard breeder. You haven't improved the line. You don't have a logic nor a goal that you're putting together in order to be able to attain or push forward the American Bully breed as a whole, right? And or German Shepherd and or any breed for that matter. So I just want to give you guys this because a lot of times I'll see adopt, don't shop, and I don't see a counter argument. A lot of times I'll drop a little counter argument there, here, and there. But the fact of the matter is, if we stopped breeding, everyone in the world stopped breeding, and we just let the dogs out and they all became street dogs, within, I don't know, within 10 years, you don't have dogs that are able to lead the blind. You don't have dogs that are going to be able to herd. You're not going to have dogs that are going to be able to be security dogs. Fact of the matter is, there is a place for these dogs and there is a place for responsible breeders. And I'm truly hoping that you guys are coming here to be able to get that. Alex, I'm sorry. I just felt it had to be said and I said it.
Absolutely. And I wanted to add to your point. My microphone, I have a congestion in my chest. So if I'm breathing hard, I apologize. I have a bit of an asthma, so I'm sorry. I'm
you're good.
100% with Raul. You don't breed. I hate these people who says adopt, don't shop. First of all, what you're saying is give a home to a dog from an animal shelter and not give a dog a home from a breeder. Well, guess what? The dogs which wound up in animal shelter, I'm not blaming the dogs. They were given away by irresponsible people. I'm not blaming the dogs themselves. And it's not their fault in their such unfortunate circumstances. But what you're saying is give the people who bred dogs irresponsibly a home, as opposed to giving a home. There's only so many homes that dogs
Exactly.
have. So what you're really saying is give the irresponsibly bred dogs homes and screw the responsibly bred dogs. That's what you're really saying, number one. Number two,
This is true.
After 9/11, I hate to bring this up, but this is a fact. After 9/11, a lot of people needed closure when they wanted to find their loved ones lost under the rubble of the World Trade Center towers. You know who they brought to find these bodies? German Shepherds. And you know what kind of German Shepherds they brought in? German Shepherds with FH titles. For those who don't know, that's a tracking title. That's a dog which is trained better than a bloodhound uh, to track and find a nose of a cadaver, a scent, a child lost in the woods. Tell the person who says adopt, don't shop when their child is in the woods and lost and cold and hungry, and ask them, what would you rather have? A German Shepherd or a Bloodhound searching for your lost child, or any dog will do from the animal shelter? When
Exactly.
you have a child lost in the wood and time counts and life is on the line, you tell me any dog will do and see what they will tell you.
Let me add to that, Alex. I think you bring up an excellent point. I think we're arming the audience right now with arguments, and I like to bring another example. Let's say you have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old in your house, right? Would you much rather get a dog from, say, Alex or myself, or would you rather go to the shelter and pick up a dog and bring it home? Keep in mind, if you go over here to Alex or you come to myself, you're going to get a background on both parents. You're going to be able to see pups. If you want to see the pups eating, I'll put my hand while they're eating, whatever the case may be. Would you much rather go to a responsible breeder that's going to be able to give you the best he can for what it is that you want the dog for? Or do you want to roll the dice when you go to the shelter? Now, I am a dog lover. I have rescued 3 dogs myself because we have the space to be able to do it. If it was left up to me, no dog would ever be put down. Only those backyard breeders would have to be responsible for what they created. But the fact of the matter is, if you only adopt and you don't shop, what ends up happening is you are incentivizing that backyard breeder to keep doing what he's doing. You're de-incentivizing the responsible breeders from doing what we do. And at the end of the day, we rely on dogs to do specific tasks and to give us specific things. You're not going to get that if you actually didn't have responsible breeders breeding. So I ask you again, if you have a 4 and a 2-year-old, are you going to go knock on Alex or my door? Or are you going to go to the shelter and just bring a dog home and hope for the best? These are real life situations that can happen.
Exactly. Exactly.
Go ahead,
Another point
Alex.
I
I don't
want
mean to
to,
interrupt you,
yeah,
man.
no, you're making the same points I am. Another point I want to bring to people's attention is that if we want to get rid of all the dogs in the animal shelters and we have the psychology of adopt, don't shop, then why are we taking dogs from the Chinese meat markets and bringing them into our shelter? Why are we refilling our shelters if our goal is to empty out our shelters? Why are we bringing dogs from India and Arabic countries, which consider dogs unclean? In fact, when we had the Afghani war, do you know what those Taliban said? Shoot the dogs because they tell us our positions. They would shoot all the German Shepherds and all the Belgian Malinois because they revealed their positions. And they called the dogs unclean. Now, guess what? It's those dogs which saved our soldiers' lives. They found the bombs, they found the mines. You know how
Yes.
many countless soldiers' lives were saved by German Shepherds and Belgian Malinois? Hundreds of lives. Hundreds. And what you're
Ex-
saying is, I don't want a German Shepherd anymore. Any dog will do. And the other thing I wanted to mention, which really annoys the hell out of me, are the bargain shoppers. I have people who are customers. Well, how low will you go? That's what they tell me. I hang up on them. Now, when people have the psychology of buying the lowest cost animal, like they're bargain shopping for a car, you're not buying a car for 25, 30,000. You're buying an animal between, I don't know, 2,500 to 5,000. Let's say that's the range for the sake of conversation, right?
Sure.
Different breeds have different prices, right? Now, you're dealing with somebody who put all their love and their heart into raising that animal, taking care of the mom, staying up all night and bottle feeding them because sometimes puppies are sickly. and they won't survive it unless you help it. And I've seen puppies die. Believe me, it breaks your heart. Believe me, it hurts when a puppy dies. There's nothing more
Part,
tragic when you see a
yeah,
puppy die. It breaks you inside.
hardest part of being a breeder is having to bury a puppy.
It is heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
Now, what I will tell you is, it's people like me who really love dogs, that care about dogs. And also, a good breeder will take back a dog if the owner can no longer take care of it because of a medical injury or divorce or something serious. Now, do you see these backyard breeders taking back their dogs?
No.
Goodbye, good luck, I made my money. Hasta la
Exactly.
vista. Take it easy.
Exactly.
Now,
If the breeder's not able to educate you, you should question what it is you're bringing home. I'm just letting you know that right
then
now.
why are they breeding? Are they trying to improve the breed, or what are they trying to do here?
Exactly.
Do you have
If
a
that
purpose, or you have no purpose?
I could tell you, man, there's not a dog that I haven't sold that I haven't had a relationship with that breeder to a certain extent. In fact, I want to be kept in the loop.
Me
Why
too.
is it? Because that dog that I produced not only is it my son or daughter, but also is a representation of my brand.
Right.
Right. If I'm only there to take your money and why, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. You should be, as a consumer, worried. What did I just
Right.
get myself into? Real quick,
Right.
Alex. NWA King Corso Joe Church says,
Oh, hi, Joe.
I found some
He's a
interesting
good guy.
facts.
He's a good guy.
He is. In fact, it was because of the live he did with you that I found
Yes.
you. So
Yes, he's an excellent
definitely,
person.
definitely, Joe, man, I've always given you your flowers. I'll continue to do it. I found some interesting facts on dog rescues, he says. I'm skeptical on the amount of purebred dogs that are responsible for the problem. I see dog breeders into the rescue business now. Listen to this. Grants are available. He furthers, the shelters are getting government grants and donations. Guys, what he's basically saying is what I've been saying, and that is, don't be fooled that because they call themselves a shelter doesn't mean that they're not a business. Don't
Just
be
another
mistaken.
business model nowadays.
Yeah,
Because
do not be. Yeah, go ahead.
and also what also upsets me, and this is just as upsetting as anything else, is people buy an animal, right? Now, when they have an animal in their house, who makes money? The veterinarian makes money taking care of that dog, giving it shots and so forth. The
Yes.
company selling you kibble or whatever crap they sell you. I like to feed natural food, but besides the point. There are supermarket shelves full of kibble. They're
Yes.
making money on the dog. There are groomers giving the brushing of the Lapsa and those silky haired dogs. They're making money on dogs because they're giving grooming to the dogs, right?
Yeah.
There are dog trainers making money training dogs, right? So you have
Yes.
this whole cottage industry of people making money on dogs, the groomer, the vet, the food company, but the
How
breeder
about
somehow is evil for getting a profit from making dogs.
Big Pharma, Alex?
Ah, my
Big
favorite target.
Pharma. Big Pharma wants you to get that sickly dog in the shelter. In fact, what usually happens is you have empty nesters. These
Right.
are people that are now in their early 60s, maybe late 50s, whose kids have now left and gone to college or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And now they want to go to a shelter because they've been brainwashed to adopt, not shop.
Right.
And when they get there, haven't you noticed that when you get to a shelter, they have a story on every dog?
Right.
This is meant to play on your heartstrings. Guys, let me be perfectly clear. I am a dog lover, and I would not want to see any dog being put down. But I am exposing the industries and the tentacles behind what is being pushed, right? If you don't know what's being pushed, then you're going to walk in there as an empty nester and they're going to pull on your heartstrings and they're going to give you the sickliest dog if possible. And guess what? You're going to end up going to the vet and your vet is going to be prescribing medication to you. And this is how Big Pharma makes its money. Not only that, it has been a proven fact. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I didn't know we were going to go down this rabbit hole, so I wasn't prepared. but maybe next time I could bring something up. Are you aware that Big Pharma is a main contributor to veterinary universities across the country? What do you think they get in return for that contribution? I'm going to tell you what they get. They get influence into what is being taught inside of the colleges, whether it's through the curriculum or the books that they're also able to influence. This is why 85% of the vets that I've come across are against raw breeding. Why is it? Because you got kibble companies paying, right? Paying for influence when these vets are being taught.
That's
right? Not only that, Big Pharma is going to push and say, for example, like a big misnomer is whenever I bring up.
I have somebody at the door. I'll be right back. Give me one quick second. I'll be right
back. Go
back.
right ahead, Alex.
Okay.
One big misnomer is when I tell people that I feed my dogs raw garlic. I feed my dogs raw garlic. I feed my puppies raw garlic. In fact, the only time I stop feeding raw garlic to my dogs is when the bitch drops the puppies for the first 3 weeks, because on day 24 is when I take the puppies off of mom. And the only reason I stop feeding raw garlic at that time is because the puppies don't like the taste of the garlic and the milk, and they'll stop feeding. That is the only time I stop. The moment they go into mush, they're going to be eating raw garlic. Now, there's a process to it, and there's a way of preparing it. You guys know I've explained. I crush it or I slice it into pieces, and I let it react with air, right? So that Allison can become Alan, right, through its reaction. But with that being said, when you go to Google and you say, and you type in, can dogs eat garlic? Immediately it comes up saying no for the majority of you, right? And then the majority of you don't do any more research than that. And you take that and you run with it. Well, you don't realize it, but you've just been influenced by Google and Big Pharma and big veterinary and all the other industries that are being fed by these dogs that are being adopted from the shelter with issues. What happens when you buy into the adopt don't shop theory and you bring a dog home and it has behavioral issues? Everyone and their mother is going to point you in the direction of a trainer, right? Or you have a dog that has some sort of disease process. Everyone and their sister is going to point you in the direction of a vet. What if I told you raw garlic? What if I told you that raw garlic, it's an anti-parasitic, it's an antiviral, it's an antibacterial, and my dogs don't know what a flea is because fleas and external parasites want nothing to do with a dog that's consuming garlic on a regular basis. But you see, Big Pharma doesn't want you to know this because Big Pharma makes its money off of your problem. They want you to have the problem and for it to be exacerbated so they can sell you a product. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, and another point I want to make, and we're making point upon point upon point. Now, I got nothing against shelter dogs as dogs because it's not their fault they're wound up there. Okay, it's irresponsible people who put them there. The problem is also people who are there. There are three kinds of buyers, in my knowledge of buyers. The first one is the price haggler. They want any dog, and any dog will do. They don't understand pedigrees. They could care less. They just want to pay the lowest possible price, and they're proud of it. I've seen Facebook groups, people brag that they got a puppy for only $450. Well, at that price point, the breeder couldn't afford to do health testing or genetic testing to recoup their money because they sold you the puppy so cheaply. So that's the first type of buyer, the price haggler. The second type of buyer is the what I call the spur of the moment buyer. It's shopping season, it's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas. Let's go get a puppy. Sounds like a great idea. They don't consider the breed. They don't know if they're equipped to handle a breed of that size. And buy a puppy at the spur of the moment. I had a friend of mine who works from home and bought a terrier. Now, at 2 months of age, that was a very cute puppy and a terrier. Terriers are noisy.
Exactly.
Now he had to work from home, and 4 months later, now it's 6 months old puppy, and he's yapping. Yap, 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 yap. That's what terriers do. He
Right.
had to work from home. Instead of getting a dog walker or putting the dog in a daycare or something, first thing he does is takes the dog to an animal shelter, and that puppy he supposedly loved now is a nuisance because he can't work from home, and that dog gets a needle and gets killed through no fault of its own. That's the buyer who doesn't think about dogs. It's a toy. It's a thing for the kids, like a plaything.
Alex,
And then
let me
yeah,
stop you there. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want to ask you a question
yeah.
because you brought up an excellent point. And I have said this in the past before to people. What do you think consumers value more? Do you think they're gonna think twice before they're gonna take a dog that they paid $5,000 for to the shelter, or a dog they were able to pick up at the shelter for $60?
Exactly my point. Easy come, easy go. They paid $100 for that dog or $200, a small adoption fee. Easy come, easy go. Not that much. Now, if I spend $5,000 on a dog, that's a prized possession. And that's a prized family member. So I see people on Facebook giving dogs away. I said, don't give it away. It means you have no value to it. Something you don't pay for has no value. It's it's not it's a living thing, but it has no value in your mind. So now, don't get me wrong. My first dog last year was a shepherd collie mix. I saved his life, but he had heart disease problems because he had
Sure.
heartworm. I saved his life. He lived a long time. I love that dog, but I adopted. I had a dog named Roxy, which I adopted from the animal shelter. I have adopted 3 dogs from the animal shelter myself because I'm an animal lover. But I didn't adopt them because I was guilted into it because of virtue signaling. I adopted because I wanted to save a dog's life and I love the animal. But right now, it's almost like if you are not adopting, they're guilting you into adopting.
You're
That's a whole
you're
different.
evil.
You're
Yes.
evil for not adopting. And in my opinion, do what's best for your family. Don't do
Yes.
what to please anybody. That dog has
Don't
to
be
live with you.
manipulated. Yeah, don't
Don't be
be
manipulated.
manipulated.
And not only that, but I also train dogs, uh, and I've seen dogs from well-bred lines. Training a dog from a good bloodline, where the generation after generation they're highly biddable. What does biddable mean? Biddable means they take easy to training. They learn
Yes.
in 3 reps, and training almost becomes too easy. The genetics is there already. All you're doing is putting it into practice. And I've seen dogs which are dumb as a rock, and people, no, it's all how you raise them. No, it's not all how you raise them.
Right.
Genetics has
There's
a
a genetic
very big
predisposition.
influence on the ability
Yeah.
to train.
Yes.
And aggression, too. Aggression has a very strong genetic component. You take a dog from an animal shelter. Why do you think it got wound up in an animal shelter in the first place? It may have bitten a family member. And that's how it wound up in an animal shelter. Now you take that dog into your home. Guess what?
Yeah.
Now you're going to be bitten, perhaps. So don't get me wrong. I love dogs. I don't want to see dogs killed. I'm not saying that. But what I don't like is this adopt, don't shop mantra where they're guilting you into buying a dog from an animal shelter. And I said buying because if you can sell a dog
I
for
love it.
450 and you can adopt for 350, but then get a government subsidy to make up the difference, you're selling. You're not
Well,
adopting.
and yeah, not just think about this. Think about this. It's almost a backyard breeder structure in the sense that they found a dog in the street, they bring it to a shelter. A lot of kibble and whatnot that's given to a shelter is donated by vets and by other people and used as tax write-offs, and they're able to turn around and profit off of that very dog and sell it to you. They call it donation fee. What do you mean donation fee? You should be giving them out for free. On top of that, they're getting a government subsidy. I mean, don't what I'm trying to say is, guys, what we're trying to expose is the industry that's being fed behind this mantra that is being pushed upon millions of people in this country. And at the end of the day, like Alex said, good breeders are able to breed dogs that are able to do specific things. The minute you take that away, then, you know, in reality, dogs were domesticated to serve men. Dogs were domesticated to work with man to a common goal, whatever that might have been. Could have been hunting, security, whatever. You take that away, You got nothing but a bunch of street dogs that you don't know if they're coming with aggressive issues. You don't know if they're coming with, they're super hyper. You don't know. You don't know. You just don't know. But what you do know is Big Pharma's being fed.
Yep,
Big vet is being fed,
that's
and
right.
these rescues are being fed as well. Alex,
Getting
if
back
you
to
can move,
my main topic, otherwise we could stay on this forever. I'm
yeah,
gonna
go
go
ahead,
back.
Alex, man.
I
Go ahead, man.
apologize
I
because
can
I'm
go on that
passionate
tangent
about it
for a
as you
while.
are, and I kind of get upset that this is such a big problem nowadays. Anyhow, let me go back to my PowerPoint and we'll go back to the main topic. And I apologize that we sidetrack here, but I think it was a very important sidetrack, and I hope people appreciate the fact that we took this detour, but it was an important detour to take.
Absolutely,
All right. So
absolutely.
now, so we know what prepotency is. A dog throws himself into his offspring. Now, what are the advantages of line breeding over inbreeding? Let's go over that because people confuse the two terms, and I want to really make sure we cover it. The significant advantage of line breeding over ordinary inbreeding is that while it increases homogeneity and prepotency, the homogeneous produced by line breeding is more apt to be for desired traits versus undirected inbreeding. Okay, I'll explain that in more detail in a second. Line breeding tends to separate the breed into distinct families, each closely related to some admired ancestor. Between effective selection can be practiced. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. Here on the screen, you see a Hereford bull, and you see what's the name of the Spanish breed? The Lipizzere stallion. Okay. Now, clearly, this is the product of hundreds of years of line breeding. This bull is going to produce. Look at his structure. It's designed that every inch of this animal will produce meat and milk. And you look at a yak in nature, it's mostly skin and hair. Look at this animal. Look how much meat is on the bone. So for an 800-pound Hereford bull versus an 800-pound yak, this bull will yield 650 pounds of meat. The rest will be internal organs and bone. The yak will only yield 200 pounds of meat, and the rest will be skin and bones. Look at this stallion, the Lipizzere stallion. Look at his musculature and the ability to run fast and carry his tail high. Look at his nose and the structure to breathe deep. Look at his barrel chest to take the maximum amount of oxygen into his lungs. This is the product of selective breeding. So selective breeding not only produces very beautiful animals, but produces animals which are designed for a purpose. You telling me you compare this Lipizzere stallion to that pony in the backyard and that's the same thing? Any pony will do? No. This is the product of selective breeding. Here is an Arabian stallion. This is a desert horse. Look at his narrow muzzle and his big nostrils to take oxygen in. Look at his musculature on his chest. Look how proudly he carries his tail. So I broke into two columns, line breeding versus inbreeding. Let's talk about it. There's an ancestor in common in both male and female side of the pedigree, but they're not related to any other ancestor in the pedigree. That's very important. In inbreeding, they're related closely to multiple ancestors at once to the pedigree. Like Raul showed you in that pedigree, multiple dogs appeared many times, up close and in the past. In line breeding, a specific dog or two appear, but there's no relationship to other dogs. It's only line bred in that specific dog, but not all the other dogs. So you're concentrating the traits of one animal, at most two, not a lot of other animals. Dogs must show type to be breed worthy. In other words, you're not line breeding on just any dogs just because there's a relationship between those two dogs, or horses, or cows. Look at this Arabian stallion. Would I line breed on him? No, I'm not a horse breeder, but I definitely would. He's showing type. This horse is fast. He's handsome. He's showing proud head carriage. He's saying, "Look at me, look at me. I'm a winner." You see this horse? That's what you want in a dog. You want a dog that says, "Look at me, look at me. I'm a champion. I carry myself like a champion." So the dog must not be just any low quality dog which is pet quality. The dog must show type. Okay, it's very important that they show type. Now, when a breeder says I line breed, ask him line breed to what? People confuse line breeding and inbreeding. What are you line breeding to what? If they can't answer you, they don't understand the difference between inbreeding and line breeding. Raul, you're on mute. Raul, you're on mute. I'm not. Raul, you're on mute. I don't know if you can hear me. You're on mute.
My apologies.
Yeah.
If you could move your mic up just a little bit, because every time you breathe out, we hear the blur on this end. There
Oh,
you go.
how about now? Is that better?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I didn't realize where the mic was. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Now,
what is the answer? What is the correct answer that you should be hearing when you ask the question, you're line breeding or what?
they should give you the name of the ancestor.
Exactly. To the
They
name
should
of
give
the
you
ancestor.
that name that they're line breeding on. Like if you ask me, what are you line breeding on? I can tell you, Yukon Van Perot. I can give you the name.
Yes.
If they say, oh, I have these relatives, they're brothers and sisters or have siblings, that's not line breeding. That's inbreeding because they can't
Correct.
even name a common ancestor. Now,
Very good
line
point.
breeding is slow. It takes 6 to 10 years to accomplish a line. Now, why is that an advantage? The reason that's an advantage is, let's say you're missing a trait that you want to incorporate. Let's say you have a high tail carriage and you want a lower tail carriage, or you want a deeper chest and your female, let's say your female has good bite, good grip, high prey drive, good maternal instincts, which is genetic, very important. I wouldn't breed a bad mother. Any female that shows that she's a bad mother, not worth breeding. The dog
Okay.
exhibits high biddability. The dog exhibits intelligence. The dog exhibits a good hunt drive. The dog exhibits good prey drive, and the dog exhibits good defense. Now,
Can I
but the dog
interrupt
has a
you?
very shallow chest.
Can I
So you
interrupt you
have,
for a second?
yeah,
Can I
right.
interrupt you for a second? This is major because you just hit on a point that is major to American bully breeders. Can you explain why you would not breed to a dog that is not a good mother? Can you give me a little bit of insight on that?
The female is the foundation of your breeding program. Without a good female, you have no breeding program. If a mother gets up and doesn't suckle her puppies and gives them only 5 minutes of attention for milk and then gets up and doesn't care, and would rather play with her mate, terrible mother. If a mother, after she's starting to wean at about 3.5 weeks, about 4 weeks, their nipples hurt because the puppy's teeth are coming in, so their nipples are sensitive. If they start snapping at their puppies and showing aggression to get them off their painful nipples, that she might
What
bite
is
the head off.
what is
The
that?
head off.
What is the result of that to those pups going
The
forward?
puppies will acquire that temperament from the mother. In other words, the puppies get imprinted by the mother. So if the mother is kind to the puppies, they become kind. If the mother snaps at them and shows authority through force, they become aggressive. So any mother that snaps at her puppies so they leave her painful nipples alone, take the puppies away, bottle feed them, but don't, because she might bite their head off and literally kill a puppy. Bottle feed them to avoid them being bitten their head off. You have more work to do as a breeder. You have to bottle feed 9, 10 puppies, and every 2 hours you have to. It's a lot of work. You got to warm up the milk. I've done it. I know. Not because my female is bad, but because she had mastitis and she had pain. Not because she was a
Yeah.
bad mother. But the bottom line is, I know how that feels. Now, don't breed again. That female is not breed worthy. Any female that bites at her own puppies or shows teeth to stop them from suckling,
Yeah.
get rid of her. She's not worthy as a breeding female.
It's basically going to imprint aggressive behavior in these pups.
Right.
Alex, I didn't mean
Right.
to interrupt you, man.
No,
Go
not
ahead
at
and
all.
finish the previous. You just hit
Right.
on something.
Now,
go ahead.
the key point here is I'm going to compare this bullet against this bullet here. I'm going to read these bullets and then I'm going to compare them really quickly. So, inbreeding is the mating of closely related animals in the same family. Quickly closes the gene pool and therefore any possible resistance to disease and therefore variability.
Can you
So
share the screen?
So that,
can you share the
oh, I
screen?
stopped sharing. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I thought I didn't realize I did. I'm not good with this program, guys, yet. So forgive me. I'm not the expert at it. So I apologize. I'm not that savvy with it yet.
There
Can
you
you guys
go.
still
Go
see
ahead.
the stallion or no?
Yes, now we do.
Okay. All right. So on the right-hand side, inbreeding quickly closes a gene pool and therefore yes, you've accomplished prepotency, but you've killed any chance for disease resistance because you've quickly eliminated variability in the gene pool. So if there's a disease, it'll quickly spread into dogs subsequent, which originate from those dogs. The other
Correct.
problem of doing it quickly, which is only in 2 years, right? Inbreeding can accomplish results in as quickly as 2 years, is that you cannot tweak traits as you go. See, with line breeding, because it takes 6 to 8 years, you're accomplishing prepotency, but because there's other dogs involved and other characteristics those dogs carry, you could tweak your characteristics until you get just the right structure. In other words, you're not closing the gene pool that fast. It takes 6 to 8 years to close the gene pool where the line develops slowly. Because you have the advantage of time on your side, you're able to tweak characteristics to your favor. Like I was explaining earlier, let's say you have a dog with all the right characteristics for being a great German Shepherd. I can't speak to other breeds because that's not my expertise, so I'll speak to what I know. Dog has good hunt drive, good retrieve drive, highly biddable, good orthopedics, can jump over the A-frame, can jump over the wall, can take down a man wearing a bite sleeve, shows courage, not fear, approachable, but aloof, but has a very narrow chest. So the dog has good grip, good bite, good behavior, intelligent, wants to please, but has a very narrow chest. Now, would I breed this dog? The answer is I would, because there's no perfect dogs. But because now you can add other dogs into the program as you go, now you can change the structure, but without losing the benefit of the goodness of that particular dog. Whereas by inbreeding, you're quickly closing the gene pool without the ability to add characteristics you desire. So to answer that young lady who asked me the question before, the question she asked me before is, would I take a half-sibling mating and take the outcome of that back to the father? I would not. You do that when you're creating a breed. That's called back breeding. We covered that in the last video. That's not necessary when a breed already exists. It's not necessary because you're not trying to create a breed. The breed already exists. You're trying to improve a breed, not create a breed. So creating a line is not creating a breed. So the technique to create a breed and the technique to create a line are not one and the same. So if I breed half siblings which carry that father 50% and I breed back to him again, now that's 75% him.
Of him.
You've closed the gene pool very quickly. If there's any diseases, you've magnified them, and if there's congenital defects, you've magnified them. I would not do that if it's a new breed you're creating. Let's say I'm creating a new breed for the sake of conversation, right?
Okay.
And I want to cross the French Besseron. For those who don't know, that's the progenitor of the Doberman Pinscher. If you look at a French Besseron and you look at a Doberman Pinscher, you would think the French Besseron is the Doberman Pinscher, but in fact, it's one of the breeds used to create the Doberman Pinscher, for those who don't know. All right. Now, let's say I wanted to cross the French Besseron with the German Shepherd and the Dutch Shepherd. I need 3 breeds to create a new breed, not 2. Right now, in that situation, I'm creating 1 breed out of 3. I would do it in that situation. So I would breed a German Shepherd male to a Besseron female and a Dutch Shepherd female. That would be half siblings from the same German Shepherd father. And then I would breed those half siblings to each other and then breed back to the German Shepherd to create 3/4 German Shepherd and 25% Besseron and 25% Dutch Shepherd. So if I'm creating a breed, those techniques the young lady mentioned would apply when I'm mixing breeds to create a new breed. But if I have an existing breed, there's no reason to breed this closely. You're creating a high likelihood of disease without any of the benefits of improving your line. So speaking of which, let's get to that. And what are the techniques? So now, the first thing I wanted to mention is there something wrong with breeding purebred dogs? Aren't mutts simply healthier? A lot of people are afraid of line breeding and shy away from it at all costs, saying, aren't mutts healthier because there's no inbreeding in them whatsoever? And people will argue, no, don't inbreed at all, not even line breed. That's not safe to do. You're going to hear a lot from veterinarians, especially. Veterinarians are specialists in disease. They're not specialists in breeding.
In breeding, correct.
And in fact, if veterinarians ran the show, there would be no breeds at all. You have just a
And
bunch of mongrels running around, and that's all you would have.
funny
Like
thing
dogs
is,
in, yeah, like your dogs in Pakistan. They're just a bunch of mutts.
funny thing is, the majority of vets I know are breeders as well. So it's
Well,
just
the good ones are. Majority are not, that I'm aware of. So the question is, mutts are not healthier. It's rubbish to say there's a problem with pedigree dogs. By culling out the weak examples, many pedigree dogs are genetically stronger due to selective breeding only the best to best and the elimination of all the weaklings. In other words, by breeding out and culling out the bad examples, what remains is therefore the good examples. Therefore, they're
yeah,
stronger, not weaker. Now, with so many dogs in animal shelters, why are we even breeding dogs for a profit? Now, we already discussed this. I was going to top cover it later. This was a adopt, don't shop.
yeah. We brought that
We
up.
already discussed it at length. I'm not going to touch these topics. Now, the main things, dogs in animal shelter were also bred, and you just therefore justifying giving poorly bred dogs a home versus well-bred dogs. If there were no breeders, all the pure breed dogs would die out less than 2 decades. And selective breeding of livestock has produced some of the world's fastest horses, best cattle, most productive chickens in terms of meat and eggs. And we are bringing dogs from meat markets in China and India. And then if that's the reason, then why are we are if the goal is to get rid of dogs in the animal shelter, so no dog
Why?
is
Yeah.
not wanted as having in the animal shelter, then why are we bringing in dogs from other countries? Because
Well,
it's a business model. That's why.
yeah. What's being sold to them is so they're not eaten.
Right.
And so in their minds, they're saving these dogs by bringing them here. But what we're doing really is feeding all these industries, making sure
Correct.
that they're well oiled. Go ahead.
Correct. So now there are 3 key breeding strategies that are employed in line breeding. I would call half sibling mating inbreeding, not line breeding, but these are the 3 key strategies that are most often employed. There are other ones. The one I'm not covering is back breeding. We covered that last time, and the other one we're not covering is back massing, which we also
Correct.
covered last time. So I'm going to cover the main 3 because these are the most commonly used. The first one is half sibling. The second one is half first cousin mating and variations of that. And the third one is aunt to nephew or uncle to niece mating. So now, what does that give us in terms of safety? So there's a chart here of coefficient of relationship versus coefficient of safety. And this tells you where the variable lies, because what you're trying to accomplish is a certain amount of prepotency, but you're also trying to accomplish a certain degree of health in your animal and removing the chance for deleterious recessive traits. So where are we? Parent to child, 75% coefficient of relationship, 25% coefficient of inbreeding. Notice this is 1/4 of this. Risk, very, very high. This is something you do when you start a breed. Grandparent to grandchild. As a grandparent, he's 12.5% of the genes. As a parent, he's 50% of the genes because he's now the father of those pups, as well as a grandfather. His total coefficient of relationship is therefore 62.5%. The coefficient of inbreeding is 12.5%. Risk, very high. Have siblings, 50%. Same male to different females, or same mother bred on 2 different occasions to 2 different males. 12.5% coefficient of inbreeding. Notice the coefficient of inbreeding of half siblings is the same as grandparent to grandchild, but actually half siblings is safer than grandparent to grandchild. Even they're both 12.5%, you will say, well, why is that? These are the same number. The reason is because you have 2 fresh lines coming in versus 1 line coming in. So that's why this is safer compared to this. Not about
Okay.
advocating it, but I'm just explaining. Full siblings, same parent twice on both sides. Now, so this is what a full sibling mating looks like. A and B are the parents, creating a sire, a son. A and B are the same parents, creating a daughter. You breed a son to a daughter, S for son, D for daughter, to produce a puppy called X. This is full sibling mating. Half sibling, notice what I colorized it. So A is the father, B is the mother, creating a son, S. A is again the father, but a different female, K. Notice B and K are different moms. Same dad, but different moms. Notice A is yellow. And now these 2 are bred to each other, producing K. Notice we have the same father on both sides, but different mothers. So the same sire is 50%, but B and K are the other 25% of this puppy. So that's a half sibling mating. The next mating, which is line breeding, is did I draw? Now this is the math of it. Same sire, mother B. Same sire, mother K. I just call her K for the sake of a letter. Son and daughter, same sire, produces puppy X. The coefficient of relationship is 1/2 squared plus 1/2 squared, which is 1/4 plus 1/4, which is 50%. Coefficient of inbreeding is 1/4 of the COR, which is 1/4 of 50%, which is 12.5%. So the question is, what COI are you safe? Now I'm talking about pedigree COI, not embark COI.
Individual, right.
Right. So the scale is not 0 to 100. The scale is 0 to 12.5. So this is the risk one. This is the highest risk on that scale. So you want to be below that number in setting up your COI in your matings. So now that's the math of it. So why half? Because with respect to this child X, he's himself. 1, 2, and this is the child. One, in other words, he's 2 generations back from the sibling. That's why it's power of 2. Now we're going to talk about half first cousin. Why half first cousin? Why not full first cousin? In full first cousin, 2 grandparents are in common out of 4. In half first cousin, only 1 grandsire is common across 4. So if you notice, we have grandsire 1, grandmother K. So grandsire 1 is partnered with a female. We'll call her grandmother K. Then the same grandsire is partnered with a grandmother R. So the same male is partnered with 2 different females. It produces sire 1 as the son of this mating and sire 2 as the son of this mating. Now, who are sire 1 and sire 2 with respect to each other?
Half brothers.
They're half brothers, right? Because they have the same grandsire but 2 different grandmothers, right? So now instead of the sire being common, it's the grandsire that is common. So sire 1 with mother A, unrelated, and sire 2, which is the half brother of sire 1 with mother B, unrelated, produce a son and a daughter, and that son and daughter produce a puppy called puppy X. Now, this is safe because first cousin marriage is safe. Now, if you repeat first cousin marriage 16 times in a row, then it's not safe.
Right. Right.
But
right.
the first time in a row, it's safe. Now, this is the line between inbreeding and line breeding, first cousins. Okay. Now, going back, now we're going to do half uncle to half niece. Now, this gets a little bit more complicated. Notice in the earlier picture, the same grandsire is in the same generation, right? This is generation 1, this is F1, F2, F3. So the grandsire is in the F3 generation. He's in the same position in the pedigree over here. But over here, I move the grandsire from this position in the pedigree 1 step closer, 1 step
Closer.
up.
Yes.
So grandsire 1 has his father SH, and his mother, grandmother T. I call her T. And it's the same, he has the same parents, grandsire SH and grandmother T. So in this puppy, mother A is bred to grandsire 1, acting as sire, to produce puppy X. In this position, he's a grandsire. He is the sire of the sire, not the sire himself. So here, he's the sire himself. He's the father, bred to a female unrelated to him, produced an outcome. Here, his son is the sire, sire 2, bred to unrelated female B, produced puppy X. Now you're saying, well, why would you do that? Why would you put the dog in the grandsire position once and in the sire's position once? Why don't you put them in the same position twice? The reason is the math. If you look at the math, if you're dealing with half first cousins, it's 1/2 cubed plus 1/2 cubed. Remember, he's a grandsire, 3 generations back. That's why it's
3 generations. Yes.
Right. The power is the number. The power is the generation distance. Half is because you get half the genes from the mother and half the genes from the father. That's why it's half. You don't get all the genes from your mother, and you don't get all the genes from your father. You get half of them. So it's 1/2 cubed plus 1/2 cubed, which is 1/8 plus 1/8, which is 1/4, which is 25%. Well, that's right. He's 1 out of 4 possible grandparents. Therefore, his genes are 25%. Remember, there are 4 grandparents, so he's 1 of 4 grandparents. So he's 1/4. That's right. The coefficient of inbreeding is 1/4 of the coefficient of relationship, and 1/4 of 25% is 6.25%. What does that mean? It means the total possible genes that come from him are 25% total. But most likely, 6.25 of them are homogeneous between mother and father. It could be more, but at least 1/4 are going to be the same. In other words, when you're passing this male through his son and it meets up with this female, his genes meet up with the female. He meets through the female with his own genes on the opposite side. In other words, he meets himself. He meets himself on the opposite side. That may sound weird, but in other words, here's an example. So in a uncle to niece mating, he's a grandfather once. See, he's a grandfather. Here he's a grandfather. That's a third generation, right? But he's a father here, 2 generations. So he's a father here.
Correct. At the top. And
At the
he's
top,
a
but he's a
grandsire on the bottom.
grandfather on the bottom. So it's 1/2 cubed plus, oh, that's the wrong one. 1/2 cubed plus 1/2 squared. So it's 1/8 plus 1/8, and 1/4 is 2/8. So 2/8 plus 1/8 is 3/8, which is 37.5% coefficient of relationship, and 1/4 of 37.5% is 9.375%. So now what are we exactly saying here? What we're saying is 6.25 is first cousins, and 12.5% is half siblings. This number of 9.3 is in between 6.25 and 12.5. Right. So call it the danger zone is 12.5. The number which hardly has any influence is 6.25, and this is the halfway point between those two numbers.
The sweet
spot. That's why brackets form. That's the sweet spot. So that's why Lloyd Bracket. This is a diagram from Lloyd Bracket. I'm going to explain this diagram in a second. Now, Lloyd Bracket created the Longworth kennel. He lived in the 1930s and 1940s. He created 90 ROM. ROM stands for Register of Merit. It's like a big champion. He created 90 champions in only, I don't remember if it was 10 years or 12 years. I think it was 10 years. He created 90 champions in only 10 years. That's a very big number of champions in a relatively short amount of time using this approach. Now, what are the things he did? One of the things he did was he used Mendel's theory of evolution. Remember, Mendel didn't understand genes. He called them elements. He called them molecules of inheritance. He didn't know what to call them. We now call them genes. And he came up with the idea of dominant and recessive traits. The problem with Mendel is he was dealing with plants, and plants can self-pollinate. In other words, plants have both a male and a female organs at the same time.
Sure.
So a plant essentially can have a sex with itself and self-pollinate. That may sound weird to us, but plants can asexual reproduction. In other words, that's not true in anything else except plants. So Mendel's views are a little bit off because he was dealing with plants, but not that far off. So what Bracket did in the 1930s and 1940s was he took the writings of Mendel, I think it was the 1870s, 1878 or something like that, and he applied it, but he also took notes of what he did, and he created recordings of faults and strengths as he went. In other words, he didn't just mate animals. For example, if the upper teeth and the lower teeth, the jaw didn't meet and you have an overbite or an underbite, he eliminated the animal out of the breeding program. If a female produced undescended testicles in the male puppy, called monarchids, one testicle doesn't drop, he would observe that same female with another male and see if it happened in the next litter. If it happened again, it wasn't the male doing it, it was the female out of the breeding program.
Yeah.
So what he did was he did a breeding, like a test breeding, and then there was something he didn't like, undescended testicle, no scissor bite, crooked hocks, weak pasterns, shallow chest, poor shoulder construction, low station. Low station in German Shepherds means the front paws are too short for the amount of body mass. That's called low station, okay? Now, guess what happened? Out of the breeding program. Can't jump a wall. Out of the breeding program. So he did matings based on this formula, but he also did selection. So the formula doesn't work by itself. The formula concentrates traits, but you, the breeder, have to select the right dogs. And only then the formula works. Now, let me explain this drawing. So the top of the pedigree is the male. Always the top is the male. So these stick figures are the male. The bottom of the pedigree is the female. Notice this is the stud dog, right? Notice the papa of this stud dog, he's his papa, right? He's his father, right? But the same dog, which is circled, is the grandmother. This is the mama, right? This is the papa, this is the mama, right? You see that? Now, but this dog is the grandmother of the mama, but the papa of the father. So on the female, he's the grandfather, but on the male, he's the father. Or it could be the opposite, 3-2. On the male, he's the grandfather, but on the female, he is the father. Now, with respect to the young lady who asked me a question, what I would do if I was her, this is what I would do if I was her. She has 2 half siblings, male and female, not full siblings, half siblings, because 2 siblings is too close and too dangerous. Make sure it's half siblings, not full siblings. Make sure they have the same phenotype, because this doesn't work unless you're also following phenotype. Let me explain. Let's say you have a dog which looks dissimilar visually from the other dog. Now they're related, but they look visually different.
Correct.
They have different color, different muzzle shape, different distance between the ears. The tail carriage is wrong. Instead of the tail going straight down in the German Shepherd, it curls. It's called a gay tail. When the tail curves, that's a Leica. That's a Samoyed characteristic. You don't want that in a German Shepherd. You want the tail to go straight down. Now, they have to have a similar phenotype, not just be connected by relatedness, but similar phenotype. Very important. So you take these 2 half siblings, male or female, it doesn't matter, and you breed this male to an unrelated female of similar phenotype. Similar phenotype. And you take this male, I don't know if there were 2 brothers or a brother and a sister, I don't remember what she said. But whatever the gender is, I hope you follow the idea. Let's say it's brother and sister, or whatever the case is, right? These are half brother, half sister. Breed this male to an unrelated female of similar phenotype. Breed this female to an unrelated male of similar phenotype. Take the outcome of these 2 matings and then breed them to each other. Now you have first cousin marriage. Now it's safe. And you still perpetuated that common grandfather. Don't breed them to each other. That's breeding half siblings. Breed the children of the half siblings, not the half siblings themselves. That's a 3-3 mating. You're good. You're going to perpetuate the characteristics, but you're not going to breed so close to close disease. That's what my advice to her is.
Okay.
She asked a direct question. Remember, I told you I would answer her question, but later on,
yes, that you will come back to it.
I'm keeping my promise. Now, so the most successful strategy is Brackett's formula. He wrote a book, I think in 1960s, where he took a bunch of magazine articles that he wrote in the 1930s and 1940s.
Yes.
And he put all those articles into a book. That book is still available, by the way. And it's a quick read, but this describes, now it says, why would you do all this? Why would you take a grandparent here and a parent here? Here's the reason. If I'm at the same generation level, right, I'm at 50%, they're half siblings. But by dropping this dog 1 generation lower, Now he's a grandchild here, but a child here. I reduced my risk. I went from 50% coefficient of relationship to 37.5% coefficient of relationship. I dropped by 12.5%. That's a lot. So instead of being half siblings at 50% relationship, I'm now at 37.5% relationship. I maintain prepotency, but I've reduced my risk. That is why you do it.
This is correct. Going too tight, the trade-off is, like Alex had mentioned, you're going to get from point A to point B a lot faster, but now you're running the risk, you're running the highest of risks as far as perpetuating disease. The way around it is basically looping, like he's saying. Essentially, you have a 3-2 setup like Lloyd, and you have dogs in between that are bringing heterozygosity, which gives you variability, which covers up these diseases. And then you're able to bring the traits back together again on a 3-2 breeding. If that makes any sense, that's the sense I made out of it, Alex. Tell me if I'm making sense out of what you're saying.
Right, 3-3 is safe. Another common breeding in German Shepherds is 3-4. Let's cover that one for a second. It's the same concept as a 3-3. The idea is always, here's my generation distance, and I want to take one ancestor one spot lower. So instead of being 2-3, it's 3-4. What does that mean? There's two ways to understand it. There's something called first cousins once removed. What does that mean? Instead of being a first cousin, it's the son of the first cousin, or the daughter. It's the child of the first cousin, bred to the first cousin. In other words, instead of being the parent to the grandchild, instead of the child to the grandchild, it's the cousin to the cousin once removed. Or another way of saying it, it's 3 generations back on that male, but 4 generations back on that same male. So over here, it's a grandchild, but here it's a great grandchild.
Right.
Now people say, well, what the hell is good as that? Well, here's the good of that. A 3-3 is a 6.25 COI, but a 3-4 is 4.83% COI. Now, is that prepotent? No. But if your line is getting too tight and you're seeing fertility loss and you're only getting 2 or 3 puppies in the litter, without fertility, you have no puppies to sell. You're going to lose fertility. You lost everything. So what you do is, instead of outcrossing completely, where it's no relationship whatsoever, you do a 3-4. You're still maintaining some of the same parents, but you're breeding further out. And then you can always breed back in to reacquire. In other words, as you outcross completely, in other words, no relationship whatsoever, you lost all your work. You lost all your work, because every generation you step back in time, you're having the influence. So you build the influence, build the influence, build the influence. Now it's 8 years later. Now you got what you wanted, right? Each female is bred at 2 years of age, right? Because you can get OFA hip x-rays by age 2, right?
Sure.
So first female, 2 years old, you breed her. Next female, her daughter, 2 years later. Now it's 4 years. Now you breed this one. Another 2 years go by. Now it's 6 years. Now you breed again. That's 8 years. So it takes 8 years to develop a line if you breed at age 2, which is the age of getting OFA hip x-rays. Now, you just invested 8 years of your life to create a line. Now you completely outcross, you've lost everything you did, because you've cut all the characteristics by half the blood. But if you do a 3-4, you've restored hybrid vigor, and then you can do another 3-4 to this 3-4, or a 3-3. In other words, you have to find, in other words, breeding first cousins is the same thing as saying breeding different grandkids to each other.
Right.
You can look at it as cousins, or you can look at it as grandkids of the same male or female, usually male. In other words, then you get to the idea of back massing. You get a 3-4, now you've gotten the hybrid vigor back. Now you lost some of your characteristics. Now you take another 3-4 or a 4-4, you're back, baby, because now you've increased it again. So these far away combinations, 2-3 is a tight combination, 3-4 is a not tight combination, but it serves a purpose. You've decreased your COI, you brought fertility back, and then you can go back and do another 3-3 or another 3-3, 3-4 or another 4-4. and you've increased that particular dog again. So in other words, you've stepped out and you stepped in without stepping out completely. That's the purpose of a 3-4 breeding.
Let me ask you
I
this,
hope that
Alex.
makes sense to the audience. I'm not sure
That
if everybody got that.
that makes sense to me. I'm thinking that they're processing this. When we're referring to allelic frequency, right, and
Right.
recessive dominance,
Right.
you can still maintain recessive dominance while you're doing a 3-2 or even a 3-4 breeding. Would this be a true statement?
Allelic frequency comes from tight breeding. 2-3 is tight. 3-4 is not tight. 4-4 is not tight. So
Okay.
you're reducing allelic frequency, but you're restoring hybrid vigor and resistance to disease. But then in the next pass, now you can take another dog, which is a 3-3, to that 3-4 that you had earlier, and now you have 3-3-3-4. Now you've increased the allelic frequency again. So you've
Okay.
decreased it, and then you brought it back.
Okay. So right now they're kind of processing this. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in a slide I have so I can explain
Sure.
this.
Let me stop my slides 1 second, because
No, you're good.
before I go, that anybody have any question about these slides? Because in case before I take it down, anybody have any questions about these slides?
Leave it up for a second. The questions
Okay.
will come in. You may need it.
Okay. Okay.
I just want to show Infamous something. So Infamous, whenever Alex is talking about the numbers, what he's referring to is, first, this is the top end, meaning this is in response to the father of the pup. And this is the bottom end, or this is in reference to the female or the mother of the pup. So when Alex says 3-3, for example, he is referring to a dog that is in generation 1, 2, and 3 on the father's side. So he is referring to any one of these grandparents, I'm sorry, great grandparents of the father.
Grandparents. Three is a grandparent.
Okay, I'm sorry. 3 is the grandparent, right, of the father. Or when he says the second 3, he's referring to the grandparent on the mother's side. If he says 4, say, for example, 3-4, he is referring to 3 or the third generation from the father. And then the 4 comes in as the great grandparents, right, on the
On the mother.
mother's side.
Yeah.
Okay, so this.
I'm going to bring up this picture again here. Let me do it again, because
Okay.
this picture shows it even better. Hold on, because I'm not sure. 1 second, please. Un momento. Okay. Everybody see this picture or not yet? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just brought it up.
Okay, yeah. So you see 3-3. So he's the grandpapa of the male, S for sire. So he's a grandsire here. In other words, this is the son, his father, his grandfather. So he's generations back. 1, 2, 3. He's 3 generations back on the male dog. And this is the female dog, the mother. Her sire has the same grandsire as her partner. In other words, he is 1, 2, 3. So 3-3 means he's a grandfather of the female and a grandfather of the male. 3-4 means he's a great grandfather of the female, but a grandfather of the male. Instead of being here, he would be 1 generation here to the right. So 3-3, this is a 3-3. 1, 2, 3. He's 3 generations back from this stud dog. In the female, he's 1. She counts herself as 1. Her father is 2. His father is 3. But instead of being 4 distinct grandparents, this is not 4 distinct grandparents. Only the grandmothers are distinct, but the grandfather is the same dog in both cases. That's why he's in yellow color. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And they're saying they got it. I got both Philip Gibbons and Kahiki Sakata. So it's, yeah, all it is a reference to how far away they are from each particular parent. And just know dad is top, mom is bottom. Essentially, that's what it is. Guys, we have about 5 minutes for Q&A. I know you guys have been asking throughout. We've been bringing up the questions. If you guys have any more questions, now would be a good time to ask. I would also like to say that if you're catching us on a replay, go ahead and write the questions on the comment section. Hopefully, when we bring Alex again, we could reference this video as the previous video, and we could answer those questions as well. Kahiki Sakata is saying, I got a 3-3 in my yard. Infamous makes sense now. Thank you. Yeah, Kahiki says he's got a 3-3, but my female is on both sides. So you have a 3-3.
That's fine. It could be male or female. In my drawing, it was a male. It could be a female. It doesn't matter.
Could be correct.
Yeah, it's a common grandfather or common grandmother. It doesn't matter. It's just a grandparent, whichever sex. That doesn't matter. Correct.
Now, let me ask you this, Alex, and again, this just to give them a little bit of time to formulate questions. Having say a grandfather, we're going back to a 3-3 scenario. You have a grandfather, and you showed a grandfather being also the grandfather on the male side as well as the female side. Would you say when you set it up as Bracket did,
which is this formula right here?
Yeah.
I changed the picture. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, bringing it right up. You got it.
Yeah, that's Bracket. In one case, he's a father. In one case, he's a grandfather.
Correct. Correct. He's a father on the top, and he's a grandfather on the bottom.
Or it could be reverse. It could be a grandfather on the top and a father on the bottom.
Yes. But my question is, here in this scenario you're putting, we were referring to the grandsire as the father of sire 2. Wouldn't it not be a more ideal or more potent way of doing it when that grandsire 1 that you have on the bottom would actually be on the mother's side, on mother B?
Yes.
So
it's
go ahead.
The formula, the way he wrote it was, let the sire of the sire be the grandsire of the dam on the mother side. Exactly what you said. But if that's not possible, do it on the sire side. That's right.
Do it on the sire side. Okay.
In other words, the genes of this common grandsire meet up each other through this female.
Yes.
This female is where he meets himself. In other words, he becomes homogeneous.
Correct.
In other words, homogeneous means he meets his own genes.
Identically. Yes.
Identically, right.
That is correct. Well, Alex, listen, you have, man, you have, I am sure, blown the brains out of many people watching today. They're probably going to repeat the video, which there's nothing wrong with that. But
if
guys,
they could visit my channel, I would appreciate it, so they could see. I made a lot of videos on this topic. If they could visit my channel, I would appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Alex, your channel is
VonGontaus.
VonGontaus on Facebook, and you're going to find
YouTube,
Alex
on YouTube.
I'm sorry, on YouTube, and you're going to find Alex there with many videos where he's breaking this stuff down. I think today we were able to break it down as well, showing various breeding techniques. I've called it breeding techniques because it's easier for laymen to comprehend. You know,
there are other techniques, but I'm not going to cover them.
Yeah,
there's other techniques.
There definitely is. But Alex, man, I really want to thank you so much for taking your time on a Sunday to come on our platform and break this down. I am hoping you're able to come back again
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
If anything, so we could have an open discussion Q&A session, so that everyone could bring up their own, customizable situation, and we can break it down and definitely give an explanation, because some people may not understand this fully. However, they want to get an answer to their question so they can go back and reverse engineer and kind of get more clarification.
Would you like me to bring up alternate breeding strategies, or would you like me to bring up what happens during mitosis at the cellular level? I can bring up either topic. What would you like me to do? I can bring up other breeding strategies if you want to, with drawings like this.
Sure. We can
I don't know
definitely
what the
bring
people
those.
want. I don't know.
Yeah, we could definitely bring those up. I just want the central idea to
Right.
be a Q&A session.
Right.
And if the questions are not being asked, then we could definitely head in those directions. But I want that person right now scratching their head a week from now to be able to get a little bit more clarification as to their specifics. And then from there, of course, we could go into meiosis for the
Yeah.
autosomal cells, and mitosis for
Yeah.
the sex-linked cells,
Right.
and break that down even further.
You guys can have a class in biology all over again.
Yeah, basically, we're having a biology class,
We're gonna have a
and
biology class again.
yes, it basically comes down to the basics.
Yeah.
It always does.
Yeah.
Man, Alex, I love having you on here.
Thank you.
People
I
love
really
seeing
appreciate
you
it.
on here as well, man. Let's go ahead and like I was already saying, I'm watching you on both channels. Now you get now give you guys both your props. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. But definitely, Alex, let's do our sign off whenever you're ready, and go ahead and break down your channel and how they can get a hold of you.
This is Alex from VonGontaus German Shepherds. My website is the same name as my channel. Please visit our website for more information and a blog. And this is Alex signing off.
There you go. Guys, we do this, we do random lives such as this one now. You guys know for years I used to do the Sunday Bully Live. Now we've shifted it to Monday Bully Live, where we're going live every Monday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Nonetheless, this special guest that I have next to me, Alex, I can't give him enough credit for the knowledge that he's got, and for his ability to be able to share it. So make sure to go and check him out. And without further ado, you know how we do. Basically, it's Raul from the Q, and we'll be catching you on the next one.